Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Talk That Talk Tuesday. I'm glad you guys are here tonight. Please hit the like button, subscribe button. Before we get started, tonight is going to be the third and final show of the marriage conversation. We'll continue some other great conversations moving forward. But tonight is going to be a special night where we're talking about a kingdom man and what that looks like. And before we get started, I had an opportunity yesterday to co-host with the one and the only security boss. And we did a definition comparison. And in a definition comparison, she found something that she wanted to shine some light on. And when she shined the light on it, it showed that the definition of narcissism and the definition of a traditional godly man were similar. Let me say that again. The narcissist, the definition for narcissism and the definition for a masculine man who follows God is the same definition. So tonight, I want to take the onus off of the fleshly mindset of what a man is. And I want to open it up to show you guys what a kingdom man is. And we're going to break this down strategically throughout the night before we get to Mr. Tony Evans himself. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start the show. Right, I'm gonna start our show. Let you guys get ready. Let the people in the back get situated, and then after we do that, I will definitely go into our show. I have two videos. One of Pastor Evans' son, giving his mindset on what a kingdom man is, and then we'll go into Daddy and let Daddy give us what he's been giving us. So, guys, thank you for your patience. Thank you for your love. Hit the like button, subscribe button. I just want to say, guys, marriage is under attack, right? Marriage is under attack. The nuclear family is under attack. Fathers and mothers being together, everything is under attack, and we must fight against that. And so this is what we're trying to do tonight. And I have some great people here tonight who are going to stand on the battlefield with me and fight against all these things by studying and by listening to what we're going to present tonight. So, guys, get ready for the show. This is Black Men Unfiltered Network's Talk That Talk Tuesday. I'm glad you're here. Hit the like button, subscribe button. If you want to donate to the channel, you can definitely do that by giving a super chat, or you see the Cash App scrolling at the bottom of the screen. The show is about to start. We got a great one for you guys tonight. We really do. And I can't wait. All right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are again. A Talk That Talk Tuesday. Tonight, you got married part 3. What is a kingdom man? This is going to be a live analysis and reaction for this Talk That Talk Tuesday. It is so good to see everybody back again this week. I miss my brother James and Lady Di. So good to see y'all tonight. All right, it's so good to see y'all, man. Welcome back. Welcome back. So Before we get started, I want to go ahead and say, everybody in the chat, thank you for being here tonight. You guys are amazing. Keep the chats up. Keep the fight going, because we're here to fight for marriage. Because, like I said before we went to our break, it's under attack. People don't want people to get married, and people don't want people to stay married. So that's where we are now. All right. So I want to introduce everybody tonight, starting with my brother from another mother's in the building tonight. Mr. Bennett, how are you tonight?
I am doing well. Good to be here.
Absolutely. James and Lady Di. So good to see you guys. How are you guys tonight?
Hey, what's up? Always good to see you too. I love your background too, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm fresh off a nap, man. So I'm ready for this.
Oh, I know. You know what I'm saying? Hey, man, listen, James, I got a bone to pick with you. Man, that prank you played on your son, kicking him in the butt and making him feel like it was his mama. Come on, James. I saw you, man. All right, man. I love the family time, bro. I love it. All right, take heed to the message is in the building tonight. Take heed. How are you tonight, sweetheart?
I'm doing just fine. Hello, everybody.
All right, good to see you. The Wife School Podcast is in the building tonight. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good, you guys. Good to be here.
Absolutely. It's good to see you as well. Sheree B, Chicago. Oh, no. What's going on, girl? How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Man, I am doing fantastic. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. So we're going to hop right in. I don't want to waste any time. Guys, thank you. When you come in, please hit the like button, subscribe button, all the other stuff. Moderators, make sure you keep the chat alive and well. Make sure you notify them of everything they need to be notified of. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys too. We're gonna hop right in it. We have no time to waste. All right. Give me just a second. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull up. Jonathan Evans is the son of Pastor Evans. And he, guys, if you never heard him, he is a younger version of his daddy. And not only is he amazing like his daddy, but when his daddy retires, he's going to take over and he's going to take that thing to another level. He is amazing like his daddy. Very young. I think he's 39-ish, 38, 39. He is amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and start with him first. What he talks about as a kingdom man, and then we'll move right into the other video. So let me go ahead and pull up JT. Is in the building tonight. JT and Nidra is in the building tonight. Okay, listen, hold on. I got to put my couples in the middle. Hold on a second. We got to represent. All right, there we go. JT, it was from What We Know podcast, along with his lovely, lovely future wife, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give it up for Nidra. She's in the building tonight. What's going on? What's going on? How y'all doing tonight?
We good, bro. We good. Just trying to get the sound up.
Okay, cool. I'll go ahead and start the video, guys. All right, here we go. Oh, whoa, hell no. The Wife School Podcast. Did I introduce you? You spoke? Oh, no, okay, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, fine. I just want to make sure. I want to make sure. I don't want to forget you. All right, here we go.
You good?
One second. All right, here we go. And can y'all hear it?
Where are the men? Because these days, it seems like we're not around. I mean, we're around, we're just not around. Because most men choose to be more like the abominable snowman, footprints everywhere, but nowhere to be found. We live in a generation of boys that are being raised to be men, just like their mothers. Because 70% of them in the African American community and 40% and rising in the Anglo community don't even have fathers. So I'm just saying, we're around, we're just not around. Spending all of our time right in the middle of a decaying culture that we ourselves have bound. Women, they're forced to be mothers, fathers, leaders, protectors, nurturers, providers. They're pretty much doing it all, in some sense, operating all outside of their created being. And then you and I, we want to take them to the counselor and tell the counselor that she won't submit. Submit? Submit to what? Submit to a man who himself will not submit? Well, that will automatically create friction. And besides, it's an inherent contradiction. Jesus' whole life was about submitting to the will of his Father. So if we're supposed to be men who are following Christ, we ought to submit as he did. so that our kids can watch us submit to the Father. So the problems you feel you may have with your wife, the next man won't experience with your daughter. Girls, some have a twisted view of love these days. I've literally seen some date the devil just to experience a man, while boys think their manhood is wrapped in how many women they can sleep with, just like their Rolling Stone daddies, and handling their problems with a gun in their hand. And it's all because of the absence of a man. Oh, we're around. I'm just saying we're not around. Look around. Our culture is suffering because of the man's unwillingness to suffer. But when I look at Christ, I see that he suffered, especially when he hung on the cross. So it seems to me the suffering is the job description given to man from the boss. Suffer. Yeah, that requires that you and I be a little bit tougher. And I'm not talking about just staying at work later and chasing harder after shiny things and dreams. You know how men do, even though I do realize that we all have to provide. I'm talking about suffering and Christ's sufferings, because that's the only thing that'll keep your legacy in mind. Like when my granddad died and he was there laying on his death cot, his kids and his kids' weren't standing around talking about the things that he bought. I think not. It was more like when my sister Crystal went over to him and said, Grandpa, your great grandkids are running around going crazy as if this is a day to celebrate. Do you want me to quiet the boys? Grandpa said, no, Crystal, you don't understand. This is a day to celebrate because I wanted to die to this noise. And then it happened. He fell asleep right there in the middle of his own den. But I can still see the pride in his eyes because he was surrounded by all his kingdom men that came from him. Yeah, we prayed with him. And we also thanked him for not letting anything in his life be a deterrent, because now that allows his legacy one day to hear what he heard that day. Well done, my good and faithful servant. But I got another granddad. We call him Two Daddy. He's in Baltimore. He still lives. And some of you may know a little bit about his story because that's how my dad, Tony Evans, is who he is. First generation Christian. Don't think the Evans family was always saved. You'd be amazed. From high school dropouts and drugs and poverty, that was our legacy back in the days. But Two Daddy found that word. He ran into Christ and then he got saved. And he held that thing tight and never fumbled it, even though his wife took him through an emotional maze. And if she was still here, she'd tell you it lasted about 365 days. He suffered a lot as well. But around about day 367, she came downstairs with tears in her eyes because the Spirit put her under a spell. And I'm not talking abracadabra. This was a courageous investment of my Two Daddy's time. And now that 1 year of suffering has become a 50-year harvest that I can call mine, and my wife, and my daughter, and my son, and my child to come. And it's our job to hold that legacy tight until Jesus comes and says that it's done. But enough about me. What about you? What does your legacy become? And if your legacy hasn't started yet, I dare you to be the first one. That's enough. I've come and I've said what I need to say. Besides, my prayer is simple, that the men watching this right now will become kingdom men, if not already, and start building your legacies today, because that will be your greatness.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so far, what do you guys have so far? I just want to get your thoughts on that first, and then we'll get into the second part of it.
That was deep. I love the beginning.
Absolutely. Anybody else want to jump in there?
I liked it. The part that kind of threw me off a little bit is he was saying that people should suffer. I don't think that that's the right word. I think the right word is sacrifice, because when you sacrifice something, you're doing something in place of something better, of a greater good. Jesus came so that we could have life and abundantly. It so happened that he did suffer in the process, but he sacrificed his glory to come down to bring us back to the Father. He sacrificed those types of things. And so sometimes we sacrifice for our children. Sometimes we don't do things to delay our gratification so that somebody else can have a better chance at life. So I don't like the word suffering, because I don't think in order to be successful, to see the success of the community, that we necessarily have to suffer. I think we just have to sacrifice.
Okay, Mr. Bennett.
Now, I mean, I liked it overall. I mean, I definitely think he's, putting a lot of the responsibility on men, in spite of our circumstances of how we grew up or what have you. I know in these spaces we talk about, whose fault it is it the man's fault or the woman's fault? And as you've known me in these times, I've always put more emphasis on the man being, you be the man you need to be, in spite of your circumstances. And, so I like the emphasis that he's putting on the men that need to step up, not just financially, but in all areas, to be the example that your legacy comes after you can model after. So I appreciated that.
All right. Anybody else want to hop in there? JT and Nidra?
Well, I don't really have too much to add. I don't know if Nidra do, but I liked everything that he was pretty much was saying. When it comes down to it, it goes back to if we're going to be responsible, then yes, we're going to take on all, responsibility. So that's basically where he was going at with it. Just sad that we're in a era right now where it's very hard to be responsible for people that don't want to be responsible for, to be, there and to be able to at least attempt to take care of the people that don't want you to take care of them in the way that they should be taken care of. A lot of people want to use responsibility kind of like how they use Christianity, like a smorgasbord, So that's all I got to add on there. You got anything, Bill?
No, I didn't hear enough.
Hold on, let me see. Yep.
So I'm just listening now. I didn't hear enough.
All right, no problem. We got a lot to hear. So I do want to say thank you, Dr. Nkumbe, for the $10 super chat. He said, greetings, panel. Sheree B, Black Men Unfiltered, Lady Di and James, Mr. Bennett. He shout out to everybody, JT and Miss JT, the wife school, and take heed to the message. Thanks for having the convo. So thank you so much, Dr. Nkumbe, for that $10 super chat. I appreciate it. Now, I'm going to play this, and then we'll get into Dr. Evans. This is Dr. Evans prequel to him going into what it is, what the speech he's going to do based on the name of it is called Adam, Where You At? And so I want to get him to do the Kingdom Man intro first, and then we'll go straight into the video, guys, and we'll start listening. Here we go.
Oh no, I didn't even say nothing yet.
Oh, my bad, Sheree. My bad. Go ahead, sir.
There's two things I wanted to say. The legacy part really got me. The man thing, I know that was more of a message to the man, so it was just understanding for me to pay attention to what I may want to notice. But and I think it's pretty cool for him to say that the things that he said. But the legacy part is what really touched me. I think it's kind of difficult because I'm someone who didn't grow up in a house with Christians. So for me being the one on my mother's side, on my father's side, because daddy wasn't around, I didn't really understand or know anything about the Christian life. My grandmother is Christian and my grandfather, he got saved. So, but he was the closest to me. He came back into, came in our life and things of that sort. So he was my only understanding of Christianity to a degree, because I still wasn't super close to him. But I wanted to say something to the Wife School podcast. The Bible does mention of us suffering on some level. It did say that. So though through Christ we do, he promised light affliction, but there's a level of suffering that happens, and I can speak from experience just becoming a Christian. I think it happens in that midst of that coming to Christ. There's a level of suffering that happens before it starts to get easier. So I think that may be a piece of what he's talking about.
But I'm saying in order to change a situation, you don't have to suffer to change something. That's the point we're at now. It's a point of making the change. Are you willing to sacrifice your choice? You don't have to suffer. It's just making a choice.
But in the context that he was saying was that it wasn't tolerate. He wasn't saying suffering as if it was a bad thing, because it's more, if you look at the dictionary, there's different context in it. And what he was talking about is the tolerate part in the suffering. That's what he was saying.
The tolerance. Okay. All right. So I want to get to Pastor Evans' intro, and then we'll go right into the word that he has for us tonight. So let's see here. Get it started. All right, there we go.
We live in a day when manhood has been marginalized, undervalued, underutilized, underappreciated. Some of that is our fault as men. Some of that is related to cultural shifts and changes. But one thing is clear. When men do not rise to the occasion of fulfilling their divinely created role, families are in trouble, churches are in trouble, and the culture disintegrates. So it's time now for men to take their rightful God-given place with the right spirit, attitude, and action to lead this culture, country into a place of healing, out of a place of harm and hurt. The culture is waiting on men to rise up and be the kingdom men that God has created them to be. So I'm excited about what lies ahead for us as men when we embrace our God-given calling. You remember, God said, Adam, where are you? Because the future would depend on the location of Adam. Our future depends on the location of kingdom men. Turn your Bibles to Genesis chapter 3, verses 8 to 12, and I want the men to stand as I read these verses. Genesis chapter 3, verses 8 to 12. They heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God among the trees of the garden. Then the Lord God called to the man and said to him, "Where are you?" He said, "I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid myself." And he said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree of which I commanded you not to eat?" The man said, "The woman who you gave to be with me." The man said, "The woman who you gave to be with me, she gave me from the tree, and I ate." And now, Father, as we bring men and women before your word with an emphasis on men, we ask you to help me, help us to hear from you. In Jesus' name, amen. One of the dominant questions of today can be recited simply by asking, "Adam, where you at?" The missing man has become the crisis of the day. Not the missing male, the missing man. It is the question of the single woman who can't find a worthwhile man to marry. She want to know, "Adam, where you at?" It's the question of the single parent who's been abandoned by the father of her children. And she wants to know, "Adam, where you at?" It's that child who has to grow up with a physically or emotionally absent father. And he's asking the question, however he phrases it, Adam, where you at? It's the question of churches and pastors who have to keep calling on ladies to do jobs that men ought to do because the men are missing in action. And the question is, Adam, where you at? As I stood in a prison a couple of months ago speaking to a group of prisoners in the male jail, and I asked them, all of you who grew up without a father in your life, raise your hand, and 90% of the hands went up. So as I looked at them, I wondered, Adam, where you at? I was talking to this week a teacher in one of our public schools, and he told me, I'm resigning this year. I'm resigning this year. I can't take it anymore. He was talking about the rebellion, the insubordination, the lack of respect coming from the students in his classroom. And the question is, Adam, where you at? Because they didn't have a father. It's the question of a girl who decides to become a lesbian because of the abuse of a male somewhere in her developmental years. So the question on the floor is, Adam, where you at? We're living in a day of terrorism where violence, due to the absence of the conscience and the dumbing down of decency, has raised again the question, Adam, where you at? But worst of all, worse than all of that, is that God is asking the question, Adam, where are you? Now, if God can't find Adam, then you shouldn't be shocked we can't find him either. Adam, where are you? Now, God is omniscient. He knows all. God is omnipresent. He exists everywhere simultaneously. So God's question about where Adam was not fundamentally a question of location. He knows where Adam is located. He's the one in the garden with him. So the question that I am raising, that God raises with the first Adam, and the Hebrew word for Adam means earth. For he was created from the earth. The woman was not created from the earth. She was created from Adam. Now that's a deeper point that we'll get to later, but Adam is earth, and God says, where are you? No, let me tell you what was at the heart of the question. At the heart of the question, where are you, was not fundamentally a question of location, it was a question of position. See, Adam had abandoned his role. He had abandoned his calling. He had abandoned his position. So the question of is the question of positioning. Ezekiel chapter 22, verse 30, God says, I was looking for a man to stand in the gap so I would not have to curse the land, but I could find none. There were plenty of males, but he said, I can't find a man. So apparently you can be a male and not be a man. And he says, because I couldn't find a man, I had to curse the land. So a land becomes cursed when men cannot be located, even when males are everywhere. Adam had abandoned his position. And so the desperate need of today is to call males back to being men, as God defines a man, not as the culture defines it. And so I want to speak with you about answering the question about the position of a man. Adam, where are you? Now, ladies, there are going to be two reactions to what I say today and what I say ongoingly, as long as this one-part series keeps going. Some of you will be frustrated because you will be thinking, oh, here we go with this man thing. Others of you will be ecstatic because the man in your life, or the one you hope comes along, will man up to God's definition. Here is the first thing that you need to understand about a man and his position.
So we'll stop there first. That'll be our first stop. So far, where are you guys at? We'll start with James and Lady Di. So far, what are you thinking so far on where he's leading us?
So I think he's going in the right direction. But I think a lot of times he's saying terms that people don't know. So a lot of times we talk over people's head and we not really knowing we talking over people's head because we thinking like this is simple. Just right. Like he said in the because he said you have to be like a godly man, right? So a godly man is going to provide for his family. But in today's time, that's a guy making over 6 figures, right? So to most people, to most women, right? So I think he's saying a good message, just like the last video I was going to say something about that. But it's a lot of times we get confused in this society because we have an idea, but that idea is not reality, So I think we as men have to do a better job of explaining different terms, breaking down things, so the women can actually follow. Because if you say, yeah, I provide for my family, you making $50,000 a year, and then a woman's, oh, you provide, okay, cool, y'all get together, and then she like, this not enough money for me, Now you like, but you thinking that you doing your job, but to her you're not. And then she's going to tell other women that, hey, you're not doing your job. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. So I think that's the kind of the major problem in our community. We don't have a standard, and everybody doesn't go by that standard. Everybody has their own different type of standard. And I think to bring back the culture, we're going to have to, as men, we're going to have to start. And it's reminding me of a verse. I don't want to be too long-winded, but it reminded me of a verse, Isaiah 3:12. And it says, as for my people, children are their oppressors. So you know how the today's time the kids are acting crazy. He said, children are their oppressors and women rule over them. See how we live in a matriarchal society today. And it says, oh, my people, they which lead thee, call thee to err and destroy their way of thy paths. So we have to understand that us coming back and trying to change up the dynamic, we have to set the standard and let the women know actually what's going on and what actually is what we're trying to get them to do. So that's what my take on it.
Absolutely. Anything you want to add, Lady Di?
No, that's it.
Okay, good. Anybody else want to add anything? Take heed, Sheree. Anybody before we move forward? Nobody?
I loved it. I loved it because, you know, the first command was given to the man. And what he's trying to basically say, the man has fallen from his position. So where are you? Where is your relationship with me? You're not even submitted to me anymore. You got played out. So now I have to curse you. Now this is what's going to happen when you fall off your game. When you're not consistent with things, when you're not consistent in relationships, when you're not consistent with your weight, you're gonna it's gonna show. And we can only sweep things underneath the rug for so long to where now it's going to trickle down to the woman. It's going to trickle down to the kids, you know. And so I like how he's just calling out to the man, not him per se, but like he's saying like, well, who do you account? Who's holding you accountable? A lot of men that do well is that they have somebody over them. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't have a father, sometimes, you know, we go to the church and we have spiritual fathers. So who are you accounting to? So if you don't really account to nobody, nobody's really holding you to that position. Nobody's holding you accountable. So now you're just out here thinking that you're doing everything that's right, but you're basically operating as a male and not a man. We need more men now. That's what he's saying. And I just like how he just broke it down in that manner. And it's not for, you know, for us right now to say what a man is. It shouldn't even be on a man's radar what she thinks of him. You have to be on your game. And whatever woman subscribes to your vision, because you have developed that level, your position as a man, the right woman will submit to that. You know what I'm saying? So I love how he's calling out the men, but in a respectful manner, like not only to show up as a man, but where are you? You know, be accountable to that. Where are you? So where are you? What are you doing?
Exactly. All right. Anybody else want to add anything?
Just a comment I had from the intro. He's talked about how some of it's our fault and some of it's the world. But that's problematic for me because, again, who runs the world? Historically, it's been men. So why not just say it's completely our. I'm good with saying it's all our fault, quite frankly, rather than just because anytime you put that in, that's been the friction in this YouTube space for the past 3 years we've been in it, because everyone's trying to define the percentage of whose fault it is, 50-50, 49-51 or whatever. It's mostly her. She won't submit. He won't lead. What blah blah blah. But if you're going to be a man, then why not just take all of it? It's all our fault. The scripture that Brother James just read, he's using that term, as my people are children, as for my people, children are their oppressors. That's a derogatory term about the men who are leading them. That you're talking about males, not men. And because of that, that's why the women rule over them. So again, if we really want to be about, you know, when he's talking about these kingdom men and whatnot, then you got to take it on the chin. How many times we've heard, oh, well, it's Eve's fault. But Adam knew the code, or Adam knew the instructions just as much as she did. So again, if you really want to go in this direction, why not just take all of it? But that's going to be a problem. And then when he talks about the different where art thou's, or where men, where are you? Especially when he talked about the church, we talked about that all the time. Where the message of church, if the church is going to continually cater to the woman and not be about building up kingdom men, well, there's your answer. And he's been around long enough to know that. So it's not to say that men just decided just to leave. What's causing the environment for them to leave? So I think that him speaking from the position that he's in, he's gonna have to kill some sacred cows if he really wants that message to get across to people, because this sort of cycle, this vicious cycle of men not being there, and then the repercussions, and then you see more fallout from that, is coming from a lot of different places. And he, if he really wants, address that, he's going to have to speak to those things as well. It comes from leadership. But that leadership has been, for the most part, up to the last maybe 40, 50 years, has for the most part been men. So he's going to have to address that if he really wants to get to the problem. So it's not some of the fault, but we got to take on a lot more than our fair share to blame for that.
All right. Anybody? Thank you for that, Mr. Bennett. Anybody else want to add?
Yeah. So the way I look at it is that it has to be used as a lightning rod. You're going to have to wake men up, because there are men that were born into what we see right now. They're born into it. So yeah, I'm with Mr. Bennett when it comes down to holding the onus on men, but it's going to be you're going to have to be at a point of being stern, and we have to be able to do that as a unit. To be stern, it's kind of like, if this is what we consider to be men, whatever else is on the opposite of that, we have to shun that away. And we can't be talking about stats. We can't be talking about, well, you got to understand he was raised by his mama. We have to be indifferent to those things. And this is where it comes down to separating men from children and women. It takes men to be that. We're the only ones that got the stomach for that. Mm-hmm. Because there's a point where we're just indifferent. We're not trying to understand why they got to where they're at. This is why war, in my opinion, it may not be good for, a lot of people, but it's definitely something that we need. And right now, that's what we need, war. And it takes men to be able to do it. No children, no women, men, because we're the only ones that can actually look straight ahead and be indifferent to these things. We can't have that whole thing where, well, he was in jail for, in juvenile, and his uncle always used to beat up on him, or, he was bullied as a kid. We ain't got no time for that right now. This is not what we're talking about. So I agree with Mr. Bennett.
All right. Anybody else want to hop in before I get back into the video? Anybody? Going once? Going twice? All right. We back.
Not his location alone, but his position. And that is that it is a position of priority. I know some won't like that, but this is not a popularity meeting. It is a position of priority, because God says in 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 12, God created Adam first, and then he created Eve. Word first. First has to do with order. First has to do with progress in time. Adam and Eve were not created at the same time. Adam first, then Eve. God spends a whole chapter, Genesis 2, discussing Adam before Eve is ever created for Adam. Why? Because it would be the man who would be responsible. The man was created first because God would hold him responsible. Even though it was Adam and Eve in the garden hiding from God, God didn't say, Adam and Eve, where are y'all? He said, Adam, where are you? Because you are responsible. If you're going to be God's man, then you're going to have to accept responsibility for everything he brings behind you, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, because you first. You know how we tell our oldest child, particularly if it's a boy, you're the oldest, you're first, holding you responsible. When God looks at a man, he says, I hold you responsible. They don't fire teams, they fire coaches. The coach doesn't drop the ball, fumble the ball, miss the block. The coach doesn't do any of that. But he is the one that gets fired because he is responsible for having the team ready to play.
So if you are a man, if you are a male, God says, I'm holding you responsible, even if it's not your fault. See, it may not even be your fault, but I'm holding you responsible for fixing it. The heart of being God's man means adopting responsibility. Why? Because everything that comes after that is banking on you. God says in Malachi chapter 4, verses 4 through 6, he says there will be a messenger who will come who will restore the fathers to the children and the children to the fathers, so that I will not have to curse the land. So if our culture is declining, while we can discuss all the peripheral, political, sociological, racial, we can discuss all of those reasons why the culture is declining, but what God says is first, on the front end, where's the man? As you've heard me say, if you're a messed up man and you have a family, you're going to help make a messed up family. If you're a messed up man contributing to a messed up family and your messed up family goes to church, then your messed up family is going to make its contribution to a messed up church. If you're a messed up man contributing to a messed up family resulting in a messed up church, and your church is supposed to be the light to the neighborhood, then your messed up church is going to make its contribution to a messed up neighborhood. If you're a messed up man contributing to a messed up family resulting in a messed up church, causing a messed up neighborhood, and your neighborhood's part of a city, well, now your messed up neighborhood is going to make its contribution to a messed up city. If you're a messed up man contributing to a messed up family resulting in a messed up church, causing a messed up neighborhood that resides in a messed up city, and your city's part of the county, well, now your messed up city is going to make its contribution to a messed up county. If you're a messed up man contributing to a messed up family resulting in a messed up church, causing a messed up neighborhood that resides in a messed up city that's part of a messed up county, and your county is part of the state, well, now your messed up county is going to make its contribution to a messed up state. If you're a messed up man contributing to a messed up family resulting in a messed up church, causing a messed up neighborhood that resides in a messed up city as part of a messed up county, contributing to a messed up state, and your state's part of the country, well, now your messed up state's going to make its contribution to a messed up nation. If you're a messed up man contributing to a messed up family resulting in a messed up church, causing a messed up neighborhood that resides in a messed up city as part of a messed up county, that's contributing to a messed up state, that contributes to a messed up country, and your country's part of the world, well, now your messed up country is going to make its contribution to a messed up world. So, if you want a better world composed of better countries inhabited by better states, because they're made up of better counties composed of better cities, inhabited by better neighborhoods, illuminated by better churches that are made up of better families, we got to start by becoming better men, because it all rests on the position of the man.
That's a lot to unpack. Yeah, I know some people gonna want to jump in on this, because when he was doing that, everybody was, so I want to start with Mr. Bennett first, because he was taking notes. Mr. Bennett, what are your thoughts on everything I heard? I saw you nodding and smiling and saying that's it. So, and you're taking notes. So, man, you go first. What are you thinking?
Well, I agree with it. It kind of concurs with the point I just made previously.
Yes, it does.
This has to be all men.
Yep.
The responsibility has to be all men. The energy has to be all on men. The attention has to be on all men. And that is what's really at play. I had on a show a few weeks ago, someone had was on a panel. They were talking about how the last time America invested in men exclusively was after World War II. World War II, when those veterans came home, they created the GI Bill so that these men could go to school, increase their skill sets and whatnot. Then you also had the factory complex that was here that allowed men to work and provide for families, build the middle class. But then once you start to get into the 70s and the 80s, a lot of those jobs went away. And now you have a group of men, especially young men, why we're seeing a lot of this violence, why we're seeing a lot of these issues with young men kind of just checking out. No hope, no future, no direction, no no guidance because we're not doing any direct investment in men. So that's on a nation level, we're doing that. And what he's talking about on the individual, the man himself, we have to have, we have to build men. And again, the question is he has to ask himself. And again, I know people have gone to his church. My brother-in-law went to his church for a while when he lived in Texas and whatnot. And I know he's done some things with men's ministries there, but that has to be the issue also. If he's going to talk about this in the context of the church, then the church has to put an emphasis on helping to rebuild men and not simply just catering their message so that their churches are filled because the women are filling the offering plates. So you got to get away from the money aspect of this thing, thinking, well, if women aren't there, then I won't get as much money. If men are that important to you, and I think it was talked about earlier at the beginning of the show, this idea of sacrifice, then yeah, you're going to have to sacrifice your Cadillac or your Lexus or your custom-made suits and put into the work of actually building men, even though you may not get as much. Or think about it this way: if you did pour into men, then maybe the men will then be the main source of financial support. But you made a trade-off, you made a Faustian deal. As long as I keep the women in, and why is it, most churches are 10-to-1 women to men, and now you have this situation. So you have to, again, for the message is good, but the brass tacks of it all is you're going to have to make some decisions on where I'm going to land my ship. And yes, it may, as he said, it may take some women off. But if you truly believe that is the foundation, then you got to do this regardless of what they think about it.
All right. Thank you so much. Now I do have Trey, I do have your questions. We'll do questions at the end and get to those questions at the end, so we can go ahead and get through the video. So I do have it saved, so I'll take care of it at the end. And any other questions you guys may have tonight. All right. So the questions will be at the end. We got to get through the video. All right. So anybody else want to pop in before we start the video back?
Yeah. Oh, did you want to go?
You could go.
You go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay. I kind of wanted to. I guess it's just something that I observe a lot when him talking about the world and men, because I realize sometimes men would. Hey. I realize a lot of things that happen. Sometimes men be like, "Yeah, that's his turf or that's their turf." But I remember one of the things that my brother said a long time ago that kind of stuck with me. My brother said that may happen and may be seen far to you, but it's not as far as you think it is. It can trickle down from here, because if that one guy does that, it can affect you this way. Like how so many of us would talk about, let's use what happened with drugs in our community. Do I really need to say more? Just because that one person was on drugs, or them 5 people came on drugs, now look at the whole community that happened. What happened with drugs in our community? It just trickled down. And I think the crazy thing is a lot of things that happen, the good or bad, really leads with men. If you really understand the impact, like I'm gonna put it this way: have you ever seen a pimp woman? I mean, you've seen it, but you know what I mean? Like,
she was pimping other women, though.
Yeah, exactly. And then she's leading other women. It's kind of like the responsibility men is just really interesting to me. I mean, all the boys in my school was having girls running around the school selling drugs for them. I'm just saying. That's like, I'm just saying. And it was one more point. I kind of forgot it. But it's okay.
So James and Lady Di, what do you guys have?
Hey,
you go ahead. Go ahead. You go ahead.
I was gonna say that I believe that women are a man's weakness. So if you look at it, men are supposed to be the leaders, but then women don't. Some of us don't know how to let you guys lead. So we're a distraction, and with that distraction, it causes men to make these bad decisions because they're trying to please us. But then they're pleasing the wrong type of woman. So now you're pleasing this woman that doesn't have no direction, has no idea what life is supposed to be about. And then that's how it's turning into a situation where, okay, yeah, this woman is not right for me, so let me go leave. let me go leave my family because I can't deal with that. I'm gonna catch a case with this. I'm gonna be on Snap, so I gotta leave. I gotta move and go to the next female. Then they gonna keep doing it over and over again. So I think that, you know, men should definitely try to be strong in that area. Women will come, but it needs to come at the right time when you're mentally ready to handle it and know how to operate as such, which is leading women in the right direction. Because you guys have like a strong stance where, you know, like someone was saying that, you know, they had women selling drugs, right, in the schools. So if you're able to have women do this, then obviously they're going to listen to you. But you got to have your right mind first, like in your space. You have to be able to know what you're doing so you could lead every lady in the right direction. So I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, it's kind of leading to what I was going to say. Men need to be more stern. I always tell men, like Women Live, we got to start speaking up. We got to actually start standing on something. Like I was saying earlier, we have to create a standard, and we have to stand on that. And you got to tell the women, like, hey, at the end of the day, it's going to be my fault, regardless of what decision is made. So if that's going to be my fault, regardless of the decision I made, I need to have a lot of say in what's going on. And because everybody's not going to look at me. If we in a homeless shelter, nobody's looking at you as why we're in this homeless shelter. They're looking at me, what you going to do to get us up out of here, right? So we got to make sure that we making decisions so we won't be doing things that just to please the woman, but you're going to be financially poor. But you might have to sacrifice. You might have to say, hey, you can't be spending that much money. Hey, you got to budget this. You got to budget that. And I was going to make a point of Mr. Bennett, because he was saying to put back into the community. And Mr. Bennett, you're in your bag tonight. I was going to tell you that. But I was going to say, if we look at the major colleges, like the Ivy League schools, right? They're the best schools in the world because a lot of people that went there, they invest back into their school. So we as men, we have to start investing more. We have to be on more panels like this. Talk to young brothers on the if we on the metro, if we at the bus stop, or if we drive and we at work, talk to the young brothers like, hey, this is what you need to do. Do you know you can do this? You know you can do this. And a lot of these kids just want to hear. Just want to hear a man talk to them because they don't have that in the household, right? So we will be more proactive. Say if you and your son's like, but your son has friends without his father, take them to the weekends, go play basketball with them. Kind of like it, we can do a lot more. We can do a lot of things to help spread change, and we can be better for the community. So that's why.
Absolutely. And to answer that, Trey, the last thing that you put, if I have the responsibility by default, I have the authority. That is 100% correct. I think that when in today, I'll say this and we'll move on and I'll get somebody else up here who wants to say something. In today's terms, we're hearing men get complacent and say, you know what, baby, that's fine. You can wear your breast out. You know, you can wear any dress you want to wear. If you want to go out looking the way you want to look, go out and look the way you want to look. You can go ahead, baby. I'm good. Our daughter can dress like that too. Cool. I'm good with it. Right. A lot of men then got so complacent or tired. They don't want to be argumentative no more. They don't want to stand firm. Like you just said, James, they don't want to stand firm in what they believe and stay in their square. But what needs to happen is if God says we are responsible and whatever happens in your household, James, I'm holding you responsible. Black Men Unfiltered, I'm holding you responsible. Mr. Bennett, I'm holding you responsible. JT, I'm holding you responsible. If he's holding us responsible, then as men across the world, we got to start standing up and stepping out and say, you know what? My daughter's not wearing that. Baby, we're going out the house. You're my wife. You're not looking for a husband. You have one. That dress needs to go in the trash. You will be modest when you walk out the house with me. You will look decent. You will look like you're my wife. You will be sexy. You sexy in whatever you put on, but that ain't it. Right? We got to start telling our daughters that ain't it. We got to stop being comfortable in toxicity because we're the ones that's supposed to clear all that up as men. And when men start stepping up, like he said, women are going to be mad. And the first thing that's going to happen, this is how you're going to be able to weed the women out that are not ready. You're going to hear these words. You're narcissistic and you're controlling. Those are the two things you're going to hear from women when you stand up and say, no, you're not wearing that. No. Your girlfriend, ain't that the same girlfriend that got arrested last year on the girls' trip? Ain't that the same girlfriend that brought a dude to you in the room? Ain't them the same girls that's doing all this other stuff? Why would you want to go on girls' trip with these type of women? Why do you want to? No, we're not going to be around those type of women, right? You have to be willing to step up and say what it is as a man. But I'll land my plane there. Anybody else want to say something before I get the real Precious is in the building, ladies and gentlemen?
I remember my thought whenever you're ready. I remember one thought whenever somebody was
go ahead, Sheree.
What I was gonna say was so he talked about the church, right? Having people in the seats. I know Mr. Bennett had mentioned that, talking about the seats in the church, right? And having people there. This is one of the things that I realize about men. When men got money and they feel that they want to tip and they want to give money, they start giving money. Women, we do not give money. So that whole point, even to think of bringing more women into the church and not having the men there, is kind of off anyway. And a lot of these churches are being led by flesh and not being led by the spirit anyway, because that's the flesh that wants to have all the cars and the whips and a big old whatever. The spirit wants to make sure that the word is being spread and make sure that the message of the gospel is being spread. And then the thing about men coming together, if the men come together, they're going to bring their families, they're going to bring their friends, and they're going to come to the church. I think that we can still have the same effect in church in a better way, in a more godly way, if the pastors start trying to speak to the men, because the men are going to be the hunters to go get the wives anyway. So, I mean, it all plays its part. I think it's just not, the purpose is not where it needs to be, because even if you pay attention to the government does what they do because they are led by money. Think about a whole bunch of men in government that got their money together to go do things. It's kind of the same thing. So I think that I just will pray that more pastors will understand that sound doctrine can go a long way outside of trying to do this prosperity preaching that really is only feeding the flesh. You ain't pleasing God with that. So that's all I want. I mean, because I've seen some dope sound doctrine churches, and I've seen some, filled up churches with the prosperity, but it ain't dope. That's all I got to say about that.
Right. Absolutely. All right, guys, we're about to start the video back. Anybody want to say something? No, go ahead, wife. The wife school podcast.
No, I've been trying to wait, but I'm saying, like, the thing is, like, going back to what he said, where are the men? The scripture says that the harvest is great. People are waiting. People want to see leadership, but the laborers are few. Nobody is really taking that accountability. To really be a true man of God means you really got to die to yourself and do the will and the work of God. And that first applies to that man that's in leadership. But it's easier to, like Sheree said, to preach a feel-good message because I'm probably not 100% myself. I'm not fully dedicated and submitted to God in my own personal life. So how can I really, step on the toes of everyone else? And that's where we need to see real men and real leadership. Like he said, it's a trickle effect all the way out to the nation. So if we have real men standing up, being consistent, showing up, saying what's right, saying what's wrong, regardless of who says it, wife, dog, cat, it don't matter. And if people want to put policies and legislature, let's go stand up. Let's go march down there together, because we stand on this principle and we're not going to have this in our city. And people do affect change like that. I've seen it. And also, get out the pulpit. Get in the community. Okay? And I can definitely say that because I've been in DYS. I've been where the boys are locked up because they make poor choices and decisions and make decisions based on emotions. And now they're locked up, but they just made a mistake. But we forget about those young men. We forget about that. We want to get away from, that's where they belong or whatever. We forget about them. But they are a product of their environment. They're a product of no men being there. They're a product of people just leaving them to the wayside, letting the streets have them. And we know the streets ain't no good. So we need to get out there. Men need to get out there first. Women, we have to get out there behind them to follow up with that, to let them know that we're all together as a community. But definitely the men have to get out there and we have to stand on it, and they have to lead, and they have to be real leaders, not no fake leaders. We already have enough of fake leaders, and this is what we're seeing now, because nobody wants to hear the truth. Oh, that sounds cute, but I'm gonna go over here to Johnny Be Good. Because I don't, you messing up my stuff, you messing up my flow, you messing up my boobs being out, you messing up my BBL, you messing up all that, you messing up with me sleeping with Johnny on Saturday, coming into the church on Sunday. So I'm gonna go over here where they're not talking about that. So you're gonna have to talk about it and stand on it, and that's just it. Men, let's go.
All right. Well. The Real Precious, I know you didn't see the part of the video that we're talking about, but did you have anything you want to add real quick before I start the video back, sweetheart?
Thank you for having me here, and I'm just going to jump in like double dutch. I'll just,
Okay.
So I'll wait for the next round. But
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Real quick.
Love you, Precious.
Yeah, I wanted to say a little bit right before.
Go ahead.
It goes down to the whole thing of contributing. Again, we got to stop contributing to a sick society. We got to stop contributing to this. So based off of what he's saying is that as men, we've indulged in too much toxicity when it comes down to contributing. We're contributing to women that we should not be having children with. We're giving them more children. We're contributing down to a society that in song and music and entertainment, that it degrades women and men and children for that fact. We're contributing to that. So when it comes down to it, before we can get to anything, when it comes down to kumbaya, we got to go to war. Everything that he's saying, I'm telling you right now, it seems pretty when he's saying it, but if we put it to work, the women gonna have to bag up. The elderly is gonna have to bag up. The children's gonna have to be out the way, and you're gonna have to have men to call this out, because we got a lot of work to do. Are we willing to go that far right now? Is the question. Are we willing to change? Because that's going to be like, we're going to be changing the world. And some of us will lose our life or our livelihood or our families or money. So just keep that in your mind while we listening to what the pastor is saying, because this is where we coming down to, and it's going to have to happen, whether it's going to be in our era or the era after, if we want that real change.
All right. All right. So, and you know what? When you said I wasn't going to say anything, but for the next month or so, I was just going to dedicate myself to. It starts with us, like you said, and some things people don't want us to talk about. And JT, you've been here when we've had shows. People say, "Man, boy, y'all better not talk about that." Right? They coming, right? And I've never cared. But I think more now
talked about it, yeah.
Right, and from a spiritual standpoint, we ain't got to cuss and fuss and do any of that. But from a spiritual standpoint, even on Friday for barbershop, I was going to have the conversation about how to have a relationship with the king and resist from being the drag queen. And my thing is, because we have more men who are choosing to be in their feminine nature than they are to be in masculine nature. And we need to get to the bottom of that to see what it is inside of a man that makes him want to get up in the morning and see the image of God in the mirror as a man and who he was created to be, what that makes him say, you know what, I want to wear a dress today. And not only do I want to put it on for myself, and people are going to accept that, but not only do I want to do this for myself, but I want to influence other little boys to do it too.
Yes.
And I want to get to the bottom of that, because that's a problem in our community too. But tonight we're talking about Kingdom Men. We'll continue that at the barbershop on Friday. Make sure y'all tune in at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're gonna have a good old conversation about that. It may get a little, challenging, but we're gonna have the conversation because it needs to be had. If we're gonna fight, like you said, the fight needs to be across the board. Everything has to be addressed. Everything that's attacked that could be vital to us. So I'm just gonna Continue with the video, man. Thank you guys so much. This is getting real good. And let's continue. Here we go. Let me take heat up here this time so we can get her reaction while she watching. Look at her. Yeah. Okay.
Because the man was first, he is to function as the foundation. When you are building a house, the first thing you do is pour a foundation, because anything else you bring into that house is banking on it holding. If the foundation collapses, everything on it collapses with it. If the foundation is shaky, then the things that are banking on it to keep the windows and the doors and the roof in place get out of whack, because the foundations aren't fancy, foundations aren't pretty, but they better be solid. When he says, I created Adam first, he's saying you are the foundation, and this whole ball of wax is banking on you. So in this day of male abandonment, male abuse, male disregard, male irresponsibility, we have cultural chaos. He says that man has a priority responsibility. Now, the foundation isn't the whole thing. That's where the woman comes in, and we're going to get to that. But the foundation is always the first thing. If you're building a building. And so God says that the man is not to be a weak part of the society, the house, the church. He's to be the foundation of it. And while I know we live in a day when, for many women, this is not a popular thought, the goal is not to be popular, it's to be biblical. The goal is not to say, well, what are they saying in the culture? The goal is saying, what is God saying in his word? And as you will see, when we unfold this word, the man is the foundation, but the wife or the woman is critical. She's not an extra thrown in. She's not just a diaper changer and a bottle washer. So you all come back now, you hear? But neither do we want to disregard the point that men have left this priority. It says in that verse 8, he was hiding from the presence of God. Watch this. In the garden. He was hiding from God in his house. See, don't miss that. Not only was he hiding from God in his house, because the garden was Adam's house, the place he lived. Adam went to the house to get the leaves to hide from God. So he used what God gave him to hide from God. He literally used God's blessing to run from God. And today we have men who want all the blessings of God, and they use the blessings to hide from God. He says he was hiding from the presence of God in the garden. See, you can hide from God in church. So if you're going to be God's man, what I call God's kingdom man, then you and we are going to have to accept the role. We're going to have to accept the role. See, all you need to be as a male is the right plumbing. That's merely a plumbing situation. But to be a man, you got to own the responsibility. You got to own that. Now, I realize that many men today do not have the privilege of having somebody in their life who've helped them to do that. You weren't raised with a father. You weren't given guidance by some other responsible male. And that wasn't your fault. But it is your responsibility not to repeat it yourself, or else the cycle goes unbroken. They were hiding from the presence of the Lord, and Adam was responsible. The heart of God's man is that he is operating underneath the authority and in the presence of God, not running from it. So then, how does this man operate? Adam, where are you? How does this kind of man roll? In chapter 2, verse 15, it says, then the Lord God took the man, because there's no woman yet. The Lord God took the man and put him in the garden. That's his house, the Garden of Eden, to cultivate it and to keep it. He gives the man a job. He gives the man a house. Places in the garden, that's his house, and he gives him a job. Single women, make it known early. If there is no finance, there won't be no romance. He gave him a place to live. He gave him a job to work before he gave him a woman to lead. An irresponsible man is not worthy to be a husband. Because if he ain't even taking care of him, why you think he's gonna take care of you? But I want you to notice something, man. He gave him a house, he gave him a place to live. He gave him a job, but notice, he told him to cultivate it. Oh, that's a different word. Cultivate it. See, he didn't just give him a job, he told him to be productive. See, to cultivate something is to produce something more than what you start with. So if you're in farming, you take seeds, you farm the seeds, because you now want growth and plants. And in other words, you want to be productive. In other words, you want more than what you start with. In other words, if a real man is going to have some vision, he doesn't just want to stay where he is. He wants to produce more than what he starts with. So the question is not, are you going to work? The question is, are you productive in the work you do? Do you have a productive mindset? He says, I want you to cultivate it. I want you to, there is no woman. I want you to produce more than you start with. I'm going to get you started. I'm going to get you this home. I'm going to get you this garden. I'm going to get you eating. But now you're supposed to turn this place into something spectacular. You're not trying to just not be nothing, not go anywhere. You're trying to become all that you were created to be. In other words, you got a purpose. Your purpose isn't just to be here. Your purpose is to cultivate, to embellish, to enhance, to expand, to dream. Far too many men have lost their ability to dream, have lost their ability to see what is not yet, to look further than they can see. Now, that's not the same for every man, because every man doesn't do the same thing, but every man should be dissatisfied with things staying where they are. Because the calling on a man underneath God is to expand whatever God has placed in his hand and to multiply it, and to expand it. In fact, One of the reasons that we don't see more of God is God don't see more of our dream. Now that dream has to be with our gift and for his glory. But he says, I want you to cultivate it. I want you to, you have appliances. I have appliances. Those appliances aren't just sitting there looking pretty. Those appliances are for functional purposes. The refrigerator keeps it cold. The stove makes it hot. The toaster pops it up. The can opener opens it up. In other words, they are producing. They are productive. They're not just sitting there. They're functional. God expects a man to maximize his potential underneath God in whatever sphere of opportunity God gives him and whatever gifting he's placed on him. All of this, by the way, was happening in the garden. The garden was the place where God was hanging out in Adam's house as a single man, because he's not married yet. He's a single man hanging out with God in the garden. In other words, even as a single man, he was living in the presence of God. He was living under the covering of God, something we'll get into more detail at another time, but that's where he was rolling. That's where he was operating. He says, not only do I want you to do that, but I want you to keep the garden. Cultivate it and keep it. The Hebrew word for keep means to guard or protect. I want you to protect your house. I want you to protect your garden. What is he protecting the house from? I mean, this is a perfect world he's living in. No, it's not. Slick is in the garden. Satan is in the garden, chapter 3. The serpent comes up to Eve. So there are going to be problems in the garden because the snake is there. And the snake is going to cause stuff. The snake is going to try to stir stuff up. The snake is going to try to get you away from God. There is a serpent in the garden, and your job is to keep him out. The opening line of the book, Kingdom Man, says it all. When a kingdom man gets up, the devil ought to say, oh crap, he's up. I got to deal with him again today. Because you are responsible for the garden to keep the devil out. Because he's trying to get in. And he may be trying to get in through your wife. No man better say amen right now. So provision and protection. That is the environment that Adam was responsible for. And then he gives him another instruction. Verse 16, Genesis 2. The Lord God commanded the man, saying, from any tree of the garden you may eat freely. But from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat from it, you will sure enough die. He gives him his word, his commandment, not his request, his commandment. Why? Because a male who plans to be a man must position himself under divine authority, which means God's word has the final say-so in his life. Not his posse, not his friends, not his homeboys. Nobody overrules God. Not even his wife. Because God is going to say in chapter 3, because you listen to your wife, all hell is broken loose in your life.
We'll stop right there. Oh, Oh, Mr. Bennett, we'll start with you again, my brother. That last comment, brother, just because you listen to your wife, all hell broke loose. Mr. Bennett, we'll let you go first. Go ahead, brother.
Oh, wow. Where do I start? He said a lot. He said a lot of good pieces in there. But what you also see from this is how even what he said can be misinterpreted and applied in the wrong ways. So he was the one, for example, who said no romance without finance. And then to this day, I hate Gwen Guthrie. Because when that song came out, that wrecked the whole lot. That wrecked the whole generation right there. Just that one song.
Sing it a little bit for us, Mr. Bennett.
Ain't nothing going on but the rent. You got to have a J-O-B if you want to be with me. So again, so we talk about, well, where does this six-figure stuff come from? You know, as if that is the requirement, like, you know, so this idea, so I like what he said about the idea of a man having purpose. That the first thing he did was give him a job. Talked about earlier, the last time this country invested in men. Again, we talked about it. The GI Bill. Another thing, and he also said he gave him a house. What also happened after World War II when those veterans came back? They created FHA. That allowed those vets to buy houses at reasonable rates. So it gave men an opportunity to, one, have a profession when they got back home, because a lot of these guys were coming, they were drafting everybody. So you were 18 years old and didn't know anything, and you went to the military, all that war stuff. They gave you an opportunity to educate yourself, and they gave you the opportunity to buy a home when you got back. So I like the idea where he's talking about a man has to have purpose, where a lot of these young men, you know, where they're going wayward is, again, there's a lack of optimism about their opportunities. Or they say, if I go to school, I got to spend six figures to go to school. And what about the job prospects? All the jobs are overseas. So where is the opportunities going to come from? So I get it that for men to have, you know, work is not just optional for us. It is a major portion of our identity, as you know, as far as men. I mean, it's part of our purpose. If we don't have a job to go to, if we don't have a something to build, something to develop, like he talked about, then that goes a lot. So when a man loses a job, especially in this economy, you know, that's a big deal. It can affect your very identity and purpose. So those things are important. But now he started getting into, when you start going into the dreaming stuff and the future and whatnot, now, you know, some people have now taken that. Now they're talking about this manifesting stuff. So again, there's got to be a balance there behind, you know, again, 10% of guys make six figures. We know that. So not everyone's going to be, you know, this maximized man as he talked about. You might be that $50,000 a year man, but you're still productive. The job may still give you purpose. You could be a teacher, for example, certainly building and putting into men, producing young men and women. So again, so we also have to be careful about by what standard are we measuring value and purpose and productivity. If it's just about money, then we're gonna go off the rails. And it can't always be just about the dollar that defines us as men. And so again, that's a dangerous line that he's walking on, because I've seen people take what he said and just run with it. And now you got these ladies in the audience saying, yep, you better have a job. You better have and a high paying job too. And so so we're back to the same situation again that we've been talking about in all these times. So again, you have to be careful in these spaces with what you disseminate and bring some clarity to what you're saying. Because I've seen this happen too often. I've heard too many voices just take and run with this. And it's like, now they're saying, well, Tony Evans said it. Everyone's hyping Tony Evans like he's the man. So now it must be good because he said it. So again, so for anything that is said by anyone, we need to have a critical mind, and we have to have the mind of discernment to say, hey, you know, let's not take this too far. Otherwise, this can turn into a means that was not intended.
Thank you, Mr.
I think
Bennett.
a man should have a job. Honestly, I don't care. Because
no,
I
like I
mean,
said,
I
I
mean,
agree.
you're not
Like I
going to
said,
turn
having a
you
job, I agree.
as a provider,
Yeah.
you as a provider for your daughters. You are not going to turn your daughters over to a man that cannot provide for her. And
Agreed.
basis on that, a man has to prove himself for himself, regardless of any woman. Because, like we said, if you start listening to women, that's when the problems start coming. So you got to stand on your own. Like, I'm Bennett. This is me. If I want to make six figures, that's cool. If she want to get on my program, that's cool. If not, then that's not my woman. Usually the women, they make the money. They're trying to seek men making more, the same or more. And that's shallow. That's a shallow, criteria based on that, because he can be a really good stand-up dude. And, but a man, he should make money. The Bible says if a man don't
That's all
work,
I'm
he
saying.
shouldn't eat.
Yeah, he should.
It's balance.
Right.
Like I already said, of course you need to work because that's part of what we are.
Yeah.
When a man doesn't work, when a man doesn't have a reason to get up in the morning and do something, that's why you got a lot of people when you retire, the death rate when you retire goes up dramatically because you don't have a reason to get up in the morning. So I'm saying you must have not just a job, as he said, a purpose.
Yeah.
But then now you get into, how much?
Well, that's not a stipulation you should put on yourself because somebody else is projecting on you. That's not fair. So you shouldn't even try to put yourself in that category with them women making these projected implications on you. That's just bad. That needs to be trapped. That needs to be thrown out the window.
It's not just the women, it's the men also. Again, we have in our minds, you're a better man when you make a certain amount of money. We all have this projection that's thrust on us. But I'm saying what a man makes doesn't necessarily make him a man.
Yeah.
So yes, you have to have a job. Yes, you have to have a purpose. But is it all about pursuing the almighty dollar? That's where again, you can take a good thing and you can mess it up by going to these extremes with it. And I'm just saying we have to be careful when we listen to messages like he's saying. Because again, women ran. I was there in '86 when the song came out. Women went nuts when that song came out by Goon. That was it. That was their anthem. First, it was "I Will Survive" by Gloria Gaynor. That was from the disco era in the '70s. And then when No Finance came out in '86, that was it. That women just went. Shh. So again, we have to always give context to these things if we wanted to, if we really want to have balance here. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, absolutely. A guy should have a job, and anyone's going to marry my daughter. Yeah, you better.
Yeah,
you better,
exactly. That's all I'm trying to say. So just to keep it basic, but society and social media put so much stuff on top of it.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate because we just have social media putting so much stuff on top of just a simple concept of having a job and providing. But now, like they get into percentages, like that shouldn't even be on the plate. and these women, they ain't even worth nothing anyway. They probably don't know how to cook or do anything. They're just like saying what they want and all this and that. And they got their BBLs and they're on their yachts and they don't want a man that work 9 to 5. Okay, bye. You will just continue to get men that will use you and you will never have a meaningful relationship. And that's what you deserve.
All right. Hey, absolutely. So the Real Precious, did you have anything you want to say, Shug, before I start the video back?
I was going to say that if a woman does see a man productive in his purpose, then she knows he has earning potential. Like if she sees you productive and I don't think it should be that 6-figure thing, this new age 6 this and 6 that, but you should, I mean, God laid it out pretty simple in how things should go. And so I agree with the Wife School podcast. You should have a job. Now, should you be, unrealistic and say, oh, well, 6 figures? No. Is he producing in his purpose in a 6-figure manner? Because then that's what his earning potential will be. But if he's not producing and he's not being productive in his purpose, then realistically, he's not going to have a potential earning of 6 figures. So I think it's just being realistic, but still following the plan. And I think if two people understand the foundation, like he was talking about, you need a foundation. I always say, I believe that the men are the table because you set the foundation. And I am, how can I come up to serve this table? That's how I see it. You know, you set that foundation. If I come in and you don't have a roof, then I don't know if I want to be in here.
You know what? When you now you just said something real precious, and they coming now. I'm gonna hire extra security to protect you because you just said that you are coming to the table. He's the table, and you just want to come put some on it. Yeah, hold up both sides. Listen, so I just want to say thank you. I ain't gonna shout right now. I'm wait till later. But a lot of women don't want to hear what you had to say. So we're gonna get into
We're
that.
helpmates. What we need something to help.
Come on, Precious.
What we gonna help? If we think we the table, I just don't understand women who say that foolery is just, oh, I'm the table. So if you're the table, what you helping yourself? Like that's just not how it should go.
In the words of my brother Sir Hale Speaks, he's in that chat tonight. Shout out to Sir Hale Speaks in the building tonight. Sir Hale said a few weeks ago on his show on the panel that we were sharing, he said, we're in a time where the helpmate wants all the help, but don't want to give help.
Send me the link to that stream. I mean, that's true though. That's true. It's like you don't want to operate in the natural sense that God created you in. And so then working out of order or working out of your natural nature is only going to bring chaos to you're not going to have the natural order of how things should be going. So
it's more so like you said, Precious, it's not more of a natural woman femininity basis thing. It's a finesse game. And that's all we're seeing is women finessing men for more. It's about me. Okay, get me that Birkin. You know that was that big old thing, that Birkin bag. Ain't nobody got $50,000 for a bag. That's what you're making a year. That's not realistic. You know what I'm saying? So you're right, Precious. We're out of order.
All right, man. Hey, listen, anybody else want to jump in real quick? Because I ain't heard from Take Heed. So I'm going to get her in here, then we're going to get this video back started. But take heed. Take heed to the message, y'all. Look, come on.
Wait, y'all, don't get me in trouble tonight because listen, my king was like, I didn't like your performance last week.
Uh-oh. Come on. You got to get it together now.
I didn't like your performance. So I had like a whole class and session last week upstairs when I had to go upstairs. He was like, first of all, I talked to God before I asked to marry you. Okay. He was like, I talked to God. He told me you was my wife. So I was like, okay, wait a minute. He was like, no, you didn't do that on your own. You didn't just get a word from God on your own. Okay. I was like, wait a minute, but hold on. He was like, no. He was like, and when you get on the panel next week, make sure you apologize to Mr. Bennett. So Mr. Bennett, I gotta say it loud because he upstairs watching this live right now.
Right.
I apologize. I'm so sorry for what I said. I was out of line. Okay. So that's what I want to say. And then I want to also say that he told me to be quiet and just pay attention. So that's why I'm being quiet tonight. I'm paying attention.
Absolutely. Hey, thank you so much. Hey, I'm gonna play the rest of the video and then we're gonna have the conversation. Then we're gonna end the live tonight. But again, thank you guys for being here in the chat. Thank you guys for having serious conversations. I see a lot of great questions in there. And then right when the questions come, we got Dr. Nakumbe in there answering questions. We got T. Shaw in there answering questions. We got CBN over there, Lady Navoa. So thank you guys in the chat for answering each other's questions and asking the good questions. So I appreciate it in your comments and commentary. So also thank you guys on the panel as we continue to move forward. And we'll have that conversation right after we get through with this right here. Here we go.
Because as much as you love her, she's not supposed to overrule me. That his job is to oversee the communication and the operation of God's word in his sphere of influence, starting with his family. Or as Joshua said, as for me and my house, Joshua 24:15, this is how we roll, this is how we roll. As for me and my house, this is how there's no vote here. God commanded me. I'm under commandment. But notice the command. The command was a happy command. See, we look at the negative part. Don't eat from that tree. No, that's not the first part of the command. The first part of the command was live it up. First command was from every tree of the garden you may freely eat. The first part of the command, he's a single man. He tells him the first part of the command is maximize all that I have given you. Maximize my creation. Maximize all that you can do. Just don't mess with that tree. You remember Don Cornelius and the Soul Train. You remember the scramble board? There were letters on the scramble board, and those letters referred to a particular singer or a particular musical group or a particular song, but the letters were all over the place. And so they'd get a couple of the dancers and they'd have to unscramble the scramble board. And so they would get 60 seconds to get the letters in order so that they could identify the group or the singer or the song. And so they had to work out the scramble board. You see, one of the reasons we're in trouble as men is God's word has gotten all scrambled up. And our job is to get the letters in place. He says, the day you eat of it, you're going to break relationship with me. That's death. That's like unplugging something in your house. It's alive when you plug it in because electricity flows. Once you unplug it, the instrument dies. It can't function anymore. And what we have today are males who don't function anymore because they're unplugged, because death has entered into him or the relationship or the scenario or the parenting or whatever the case may be. He says that you are to carry my word. What was the difference between, what was the problem with this tree in the middle? Called the tree, it was a Google tree because it calls it a tree of knowledge. It was Google, it was the internet tree. Okay? This tree was full of data, all kind of data. Good data, bad data. Tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So the tree wasn't all bad. It had evil, but it also had good. But he said, I don't want you to eat it, even though it's got good stuff on it. Why? Because Adam, if you're going to be the man that I want you to be, created you to be, and you're going to be operating like you're supposed to be, then I want you to live by revelation, not reason. I do not want your human reason to determine your actions. I want divine revelation. What I say, and when I'm ready for you to know it, I'm going to tell it to you. Don't go out there apart from me and learn it on your own. One of the problems today with so many men is that they've gone so secular, or they've been to some college, or they've gotten stuck in some career, or they've been hanging out with the wrong folk, and they've gotten all of this definition of manhood messing them up so that they're not able to function in the way God wants them to function, and we wind up as men being dead men walking. We got the title. And you know, we want people to recognize the title. I'm the head of this house. I'm the boss. I'm the man. We want the title without the responsibility. He says, no, he's talking to Adam. Guess what Adam's job was to be? He was to make sure this information got transferred to Eve. He wanted to make sure this information got transferred to Eve. And he transferred it to Eve. In fact, he transferred it with a vengeance. What do I mean he transferred it with a vengeance? Because when the devil asked Eve, can you eat from the tree? She said, not only can I not eat from it, I can't touch it. So what Adam told her was, girlfriend, baby girl, sweetheart, honey, sugar dumpling, Don't eat from that tree. And in case you didn't get it, don't even go near it where you can brush up against it. He was to transfer. So if the wife has got to ask you, are you going to church today? If the wife has got to ask you, are you going to pray with the family? If the wife has got to ask you, are you going to have devotions? That means you're not fulfilling the spiritual responsibility of spiritually leading your home. You say, but I don't know what to do. Yeah, you do, because all you got to do is steal from me. I done already done the work. So all you got to do is take what I did and say, family, let's discuss the sermon that we had on Sunday. So I did the work. You become the thief. Your family gets the information. You are the spiritual head. You say, but my wife knows more than me. That got nothing to do with it. That has absolutely nothing to do with it. It's not who knows the most, it's who's responsible. That's who it is. And this places things in order. It gets things in the proper place. God says, not your reason, but my word must define you before I give you a woman. Because when I give you a woman, and then when I give you a family, and then when I give you a culture, then when I give you a career, then when I give you all this stuff, it will be managed by me through you. It will not be managed by you apart from me. A man is to be the vehicle, the flow through from God to those entities, family, church, society, that he flows through as the first point of contact. Yes, women, you have your own personal responsibility and relationship with the Lord. That is to be primary. The Bible says even a husband can't overrule God in the life of his wife. But at the same time, God has a process that he prefers to flow through. I know in this day of being politically correct, that's not a popular position. But let's get this straight. I ain't trying to be popular. I'm trying to be biblical. Human reason was never to govern the man. Divine revelation was. When my son Anthony was small, and we bought him a bicycle. And back then they didn't put it together for you. You had to put it together yourself. It came with all these nuts and bolts and screws and washers and all this stuff. Came with all this stuff and a thick book of instructions. Thick book of instructions. So I looked at all these pieces in this thick book and I rationalized. I said, no, wait a minute. I have a college degree. I'm working on my master's, and I'm going to go for my doctorate. So I can figure this out. I can do this 8 hours later with just the handlebars on. With just the handlebars. I'm out there fiddling, just the handlebars on. Sister Evans comes to the garage door and gives me a piece of interesting advice that I didn't want to hear. Basically, she said, could it be, could it be that the bicycle maker knows more about bicycle assembly than the degreed one knows? So I ask you, could it be that the man maker knows more about manhood than the man does? And I was able to complete in 45 minutes what my own understanding had not been able to fix in 8 hours. Many men say, my wife won't change. Whose book are you using? My kids won't change. Which manual are you using? Because if you're using from the wrong tree, there's no power. There's no God. There's just the best you can come up with. Wife after wife. Family after family.
Shout out to Steve Harvey.
So God is calling on men and he's asking the question, Adam, where are you? Now, not just a location question, but a position question. Now, I don't have time to go into this, so what I'm getting ready to tell you now, I'm gonna wait but I'm just gonna introduce it right now. Just gonna introduce it. As you all have heard me say, at least the men have heard me say, I love being a man, okay? When I get up in the morning and I look in the mirror, hey, yeah, you're a man. I mean, that's how I feel. I feel that thing is on me. I got that thing. That thing is on me. I love being a man. And let me tell you one reason why. Verse 19 of chapter 2. Out of the ground, the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every bird of the sky and brought them to the man to see what he would call them. And whatever the man called a living creature, there it is. Ooh, that was its name. You know why I love being a man? I get the name stuff. I get the name stuff. You know what the name stuff means in the Bible? When you got the name stuff, you got to own it. When you got the name stuff, you can exercise authority over it. Now, you can't just go name anything. You got to name what God brings you. But once God brings it to you, you get to own that thing. So I be naming everything I can get my hands on and giving it back to God. God gives you the ability and the authority. That's why when a woman comes on the scene, she changes her name. Because you lay hold of that thing. You grab that thing. You say, no, 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 you mine because I named you. You get the name. That's exercising spiritual authority. You get to do that if you're underneath his covenant and his covering. So the question on the floor is, Adam, where are you now? I know that many men, as I said earlier, have grown up without a biblical worldview. And I know that we as men, even if you had it, stray from it. And God is asking us today, where are you? Where are you as I define you? But that's where the good news comes in. Because in the Bible, there are two men named Adam, not one. You got the first Adam in Genesis 2 and 3. And the Bible says in Romans 5, he blew it for the whole race. In verse 18 and following of Romans 5, the first Adam blew it for the whole race. But in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 22, 45, and 47, it says there's another Adam. Adam number 2. He's called the last Adam. While Adam number 1 got us booted out of the garden, the Bible says the last Adam is a life-giving spirit, and he can escort you back into the garden. The first Adam may have messed you up, but the last Adam can pick you up. And you don't have to be like your daddy. You don't have to be like your granddaddy. You don't have to be like the people who influenced your life who were wrong. The last Adam can rename you. There were two guys in a mountain climbing incident. And there was a man in the front and a man in the back, and there were two men in the middle who were climbing the mountain. But in order to get them up there safely, there was a guy at the front named Adam and a guy at the back named Adam. So they are climbing up this mountain. But the problem is, as the first Adam, the Adam up front, he slipped. And all the folks were tied together by a rope. The first Adam slipped. And when the first Adam slipped, he pulled the two men with him. And they were going to fall off of the precipice. But the last Adam took his axe and plowed it into the mountain so that all the men that were behind him could climb back up. The first Adam slipped, and he's dragging all the men down. But the last Adam on the cross has nailed that thing. And he says, if you climb up on me, I will take you back to what you think you lost. So the question is, Adam, where are you? Men, it's time to come home.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. That concluded that. Now we have the discussion about it because we'll start with Sheree. Sheree, what are your thoughts on this on the last part of the sermon?
This was good. I really enjoyed it. I guess I'm really just sitting here digesting it. Really, I don't even know what to really say. I like how he ended it. But the first thing that came to my mind when he got done, and then we were saved. So that's the first thing that came to my mind. So I'm grateful for that, and it's so interesting. I like to think about everything ends and starts with Christ, and we just that's really all I've been thinking all I'm thinking right now. I really don't have anything to say at this moment.
Man, thank you so much. I appreciate you, Sheree. The Real Precious. What are your thoughts? I saw you, and clapping, and I saw you.
Well, he said that part where I was like, yeah, God wants us to live it up, and He knows that we have free will, but are we going to trust Him enough to not lean on our own understanding? I think that's I don't know if you can use this word, a sexy trait for both men and women. Lean not on your own understanding. And that's something that, in relationships, that's not a principle that people really, embrace, because I got to be right. You got to be right. I'm wrong. You're wrong. I'm right. You're right. It got to happen on my time. No, it got to happen on my time. And it's like, well, sometimes we can't lean on our own understanding because there are things working. The serpent is in the grass. The devil don't like family. The devil don't like, marriage. So we know that there are things working against us. When you get married, you should already know that we're going to get attacked. When you're in a relationship, you should already know, like, this is going to get attacked. They definitely coming for it. Whoever they are, whoever it is, whoever he or she is, they coming for it, because we were told that. So, I love, when he said, look, God wants us to live in abundance, but He also wants us to listen to Him as well and trust Him. And so when He says, Adam, where are you? And He also broke down how some men were raised in church. Some men did have that example, especially in the Black community. That was a community. That was part of the community, the church. You go to school, you go to church about 3-4 times a week. Little Black boys know they can relate. They can relate. Now, they may have not liked it. They may not have stayed on that path, but they know where home base is at. And I think if more men answered that calling of Adam, where art thou? Like he said, it's not geographically, where are you? Where's your heart position? How is your heart posture? Where are you? What are you hiding from? And I think sometimes we take the Bible real literal too. We're just like, no, sometimes we got to listen to things and really sit with it. He's asking me where I am. And if it's not a geographical question, that means where's my heart? Where's my spirit? And if I knew him and I knew he was a source, why would I deny him? It must be me. It must be something in me that I can't unsee or I can't get past, or there's that insecurity. But like he said, you know, you get the sermons, we're the thieves, and then we talk about it. So at the end of the day, it's about just really getting that truth past your lips and knowing that God not going to fail you. He wants you to come to him, but he's a gentleman. He's not going to force you. He's not into that business. So, you know, where is your heart? And if he's asking, answer it. You might find some answers that you've been waiting for.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Mr. Bennett, what are your thoughts, man?
All right. This one kind of bothered me a little bit with some of the points that he made, that some things just didn't sit right with me. And a lot of this is some things that I said earlier, but I may amplify it again. The first thing he did, and I see a lot of people doing this, which I've never been comfortable with, is this separation he makes between spiritual and common sense or logic. You know, be spiritual, not logical. But this same God made us logical. He gave us a mind to think and to reason. But what informs that logic or reason is information. So it's not that we're being logical. It's based on what information are we being fed. He used the example of the bike. The instructions are there. Are we using that as a basis for our logic, or are we using something else? But I hate when we're always pitting spiritual versus reason. They're supposed to work together. God did not make us without sound judgment and to be able to figure things out. I think those things go hand in hand. So I don't like when people do that. I don't like when people separate spiritual from, say, from education. People don't know a lot of the colleges, especially in this country, a lot of these Christian colleges, or just colleges in general, were founded by Christian people because they understood that to truly understand God, science, for example, was part of understanding God. If you're going to have dominion over the earth, you can't have dominion over that which you do not know. And so if you're going to understand even tending in the garden, you got to know botany, you got to know biology, you got to know physics, you got to know astronomy. So the very sciences themselves are based on having an understanding of how God has made and fashioned this earth. That's how we can have dominion and extract the resources from it. So I don't like when people try to make this distinction. Yes, there's teachings out there in college, but you can get that anywhere now, especially with the internet. You can get all kinds of teachings and things that are off kilter. But to say is, but you have religions that that talk about, oh well, don't go to college, else you'll be brainwashed or you'll be whatever. No, you can have education, you can have science and religion. For me, I don't like when we make those separations between science. I think that's an aspect of God. And when applied correctly with the right principles, then that's how we can really harness and be productive, as he talks about. So that's the first thing. One thing I did like what he said, though, was when it came to the idea of knowledge. And he talked about, well, what if the woman knows more than me? Then how can I be the spiritual leader if my woman knows the Bible more than me? But it's like anything else. We all know this from our jobs. Most of our bosses know less than us. Them having knowledge of whatever they have over us has nothing to do with that. My boss, if I talk too technical to him, I just lose him. I got to break stuff down and make it simple for him to understand, so then he can give me the either, okay, well, here, go this way. Or I have to define, well, why we need to go this way. So just like, so leadership has not as much to do with your knowledge as that. So I like that point to say it's okay if your woman knows more than you. All right. She has my skill. She has aptitudes in other areas. She's better with accounting or counting the books and the finances. That's not, there's nothing wrong with that. And my manhood shouldn't be affected. I hope she knows some things better than me. So I don't have to know everything, but that doesn't have any issue with my leadership. And then the last thing he was talking about at the end, I wasn't necessarily feeling the whole name it and claim it stuff. That's how a lot of these people take something and then run with it. So we got this prosperity gospel, we got this name it and claim it stuff out there, or claim what you want, in the name of Jesus or whatever, and it's yours. That's where a lot of this kind of stuff comes from. So again, I push back on that with some of that stuff, because again, I know how people kind of go and run with it. So those are the three main points that I took away from that. But faith and reason are not necessarily opposing values or interests. And I think we need to have more reason, especially if we want to reach a world that's searching. We need to apply both an appeal to reason in order to win them over. So that's all I had to say on those.
So
I just want to say I love how we're just color coordinated tonight and didn't even plan it. Gotta coordinate.
Right. I want to say real quick, pick off of what he said real quick and what the Real Precious said real quick, because she mentioned and they put it in there. It's my favorite. I know this after reading the Bible. This is like the first verse that I learned to memorize was Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, and it's trust in the Lord, trust in the Lord with all their heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all their ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct our paths. The one thing I remember I was saying, so the only line that I knew was lean not on your own understanding. I remember I was telling somebody that, and they kind of thought that maybe it meant to not use your head. But that's not what it means at all. If you really think about it, the first line is trust in the Lord with all that heart. So you trust Him with everything. Next line is not lean on your own understanding. The key word is lean. So to go what Bennett is saying, because I think so many people probably do think that it's a more spiritual where you don't use your head. The word lean, if I lean on the wall, I'm still standing on my own 2 feet. And there's the wall right there. Now, if that wall falls, I just still be able to get on my own 2 feet. But if that wall is there, I'm just leaning it. I'm using it for support. So God is offering you to say, use me. But I still need you to have your own 2 feet to do what you need to do. Use your own mind, go where you need to go, but use me, because I'm the one that's going to direct all your paths. I'm the one that knows what's best for you. I'm the one that got this thing planned out for you and gave you the land and gave you everything you need. So trust in me with everything. Lean on me, not your own understanding, because you don't know this like I do. I created you. And acknowledge me in all your ways, and I will show you the way. So I think that it goes a lot. I just wanted to point that out, because I think sometimes when people read the Bible, they really don't understand. They really did, because I think they kind of get lost in the free will part. They was like, so we really don't have any, what I have no way. I was like, nah, a lot of the things that you think of was seeds planted by God. Like, you think sometimes and you really wouldn't like them, and you really think you know what to do with those ideas and those gifts that you got. You don't know what to do with those. God knows what to do with those. So lean on Him.
The only thing I have a problem with is kind of like, Mr. Bennett, you know what? You kind of stole my fire, so I'm just my biggest thing was this whole thing where you got to understand also is that because of where we at in the world right now, the majority of us are so far away from who God is. So many of us don't know who God is. So it takes our understanding and seeking knowledge, seeking understanding of self, right? Self-knowledge. This is where, so this is the thing. If we understand that God is from the inside out, then this is where that whole thing also goes into, as far as like not to lean on your own understanding, because if you understand and you believe that God is inside you and everything else is on the out, if you're looking for God on the outside, you'll never find him. Most people, even people that go to church, they don't know who God is. They think God is this old man with a long beard that's knitting up their life. And they ask him for stupid things like to make them rich or to give them a husband or a wife. And they're not understanding that God is inside. So first and foremost, we do have to understand ourselves. If we understand ourselves at some point in our life, we're going to understand that that's what God is. It's right there. This is why, I really kind of like understood what he said, but it was some pushback because it goes to what Mr. Bennett was saying, that if it gets in the wrong ears, their understanding is going to take it too far and it's going to veer off. It's just going to veer off. I do want to touch on the other thing when we talk about that table. The table initially is what they call the negotiation table. Nobody is the table. It's the place where you sit at to make negotiations for marriage. That's what it is. When you're sitting at the table, what you're doing is making a deal with one another. The man presents the deal, the woman, okay, all right, I'll take this on. That's what we're supposed to be doing when it comes down to us dating, or what most people would call courting or dating for marriage. That's when you're sitting down per se. But that's what the table actually is. It's a negotiation table. A lot of us sit down at this table and we ain't got nothing to negotiate. We have what what a lot of people would consider a bunch of things that make us be what they would consider a liability. We have very few things that we look at as assets to our mate or our future husband or future wife. And so what we try to do is sit down and negotiate with a bunch of our trauma. We try to sit down and negotiate with a bunch of bad decisions. This is what we do. So when we talk about this table, we have to get the concept right. The concept is us making that deal with one another. How do we define our marriage or future marriage? In order for us to go any further, we have to define it the way we need it to go. And a lot of people don't do it. I was watching something on Netflix, and it was called How to Be Rich. I don't know if you guys seen that yet, but it's more of a show. We was watching that today, and it was a man that goes around to couples, and what he was talking to them about is finances in their life. And every couple that he talked to, guess what they never talked about? They talked about everything else, but they never talked about finances with each other. Some of them were married, some of them were engaged, some of them were just dating, getting ready to get married or engaged or whatever. And it was crazy. I wasn't planning on watching it, but let me tell you, it showed how the American culture is right now. And one of the things that we are not is honest. We're not honest with one another at all. And we don't sit down at the table. It is a process. It's not just sitting down at a real table and talking. It's about actually having a process of putting ourselves in front of each other vulnerably. And it's not an easy thing to do. And once we can conquer that, I'm telling you, I'm gonna land it from there because I have a whole every time this man talk, it's so much that's going on in my head, I can't get it all out, man. So I'm gonna land my plane right
So
there.
can I add my 2 cents in real quick?
Yeah, let Nidra go, and then we'll get you taken.
Okay.
Go ahead, Nidra.
Oh, I gotta go. First, so we are clear. JT already said that I am the table.
We on podcast though. Don't be telling me.
Last week he was Lord. Wait a minute. Last week he
was Lord. What happened?
I'm still my Lord.
Go ahead, Nidra.
It was so much that I learned from this podcast today. Going back to the beginning when he was talking about y'all know.
Yeah. You dealing with him over there. I mean, you can forget everything. I'm just.
Thank you. Exactly.
Yeah.
It was just so much to learn, so much just good information. Just talking about, Adam, where are you? I think that a lot of men today, they just don't have examples. They don't have people to look up. They don't look up to. They just don't know how to be in the world. let alone, in a relationship or, when it comes to talking about raising a family and things like that. And, I remember earlier on in the video when he was talking about when he was comparing like the church to the city to the county and those type of things, it was just, we already know that men have a lot to carry in everyday life, but just him giving that example is just like, damn, men have a lot of responsibility, and God honest truth is that a lot of men don't have it in them to deal with that or to handle it. They just don't know how to navigate in that area. So it's a lot. It was a great show. So I'll get to forgetting things, so I'm gonna just let somebody else go. Speak.
Oh no, that's fine. And so take heed to the message, and then we'll have James and the Wife School podcast, and then we'll end it up. But I did want to say this next week, guys. I know I'll be hounding y'all because y'all be dropping so many dimes. I have to have intelligent people around me now. I can't have dumb people around me. I'm sorry, y'all. But next week I want to get into something a little deeper because next week the title of the show next week is Soul Ties, the Silent Killer. Because that's also a problem. I think that we go into marriages giving ourselves to people when we've given ourselves to people. Well, we're gonna deal with that next week. We're gonna deal with that next week. So
shout out to you, James.
Absolutely. So take heed to the message. What do you have for us?
So I wanted to say this, just wanted to put my little 2 cents on it. I remember a couple months back, my daughter, our eldest daughter, she said to me, Mom, the Bible in Genesis, she says to me, Mom, why she said, how did she say that? Because I want to make sure I say this right. She said, Mom, men are responsible for us. And I said to her, why do you say that? Now she's the eldest. She says to me, because when they disobeyed God, when Eve disobeyed God, right? Mom, he called Adam first. And I said, yes. She said, so that makes it that men are responsible for us. I said, yes. She said, yeah, but these hyenas run around here and they don't want to listen to the men. So I had to bust out and laugh because she's a teenager. So I was like, okay, let me explain. So what I wanted to say is that I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that part because I don't think that it was fair that Adam was called first. But that's just me. That's just me saying that. Because you can lead a horse, right? You can lead a horse, but you can't make them drink it. You understand? I'm just saying, we have a lot of women out here that they will bash another woman because she wants to listen to her husband. She wants to be obedient to her husband. She wants to follow her husband. When her husband tell her, shh, she want to shh. And then everybody else is mad with her. You understand? Oh, you strong. You shouldn't have to listen to him. Why are you making his plate? Why are you doing this for him? Why are you doing that for him? And that's how society is. They don't want the woman to do her purpose. You understand? They don't want her to do her purpose. So she agrees with society and don't do her purpose. And this is where we are today. I know that Adam is the head. He is the head. He is the foundation of the family. But Adam can't get no cooperation from Eve because she out here shaking her thing. I'm just saying, it's a lot going on. And Adam is trying his best and he trying to pull it together. But if she out there shaking that thing, what, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, yeah, we got to think about that too. You know, we sit up here, we telling Adam, You gotta, Adam, where are you? Okay. But Eve, where are you too? You supposed to be following Adam. Okay. She's supposed to be following Adam. And I'm gonna tell you something. On my channel, I get a lot of pushback. People will tell me, oh, she just sit up there, she just listen to anything her husband say. And I'm gonna tell you something. I do. I follow my husband. Yes, I do. Anything he tell me to do, I follow him. Because let me tell you something. God put me in that position that I'm supposed to follow him. So it's whatever he say, that's what it go. You understand? I didn't just decide to follow just any man. Okay. I decided to follow a man that wanted to follow God. You understand? So I'm going to stay in line. I'm going to follow what my husband say. You know what I'm saying? And I think we forget that as Christian women because, maybe you pray harder than him. Maybe you get the Holy Spirit before him. Maybe you speak in tongues better than him. And so you think you're supposed to govern the house. You're supposed to tell him what to do. And sometimes we miss what God has for us because we come out of order. We do what we want to do as women. So I don't think that we should just say, oh, Adam, where art thou? It should be Eve. You're supposed to be behind Adam too. That's just my take on it. That's how I feel. It to me, it's like if Adam is doing what he got to do and Eve is doing foolery, then how do we fix it? Eve has to have some correction too.
She gets no soup. She gets no soup.
I'm just
no covering.
I'm just saying because she has to take accountability too. We sitting up here saying that, it's Adam, but Eve is out here shaking her thing and sleeping with everybody. She got 3-4 baby daddies running around here. She got a 18-inch weave and all this nonsense. I'm just saying we doing too much because she's not doing the right thing either. And yes, Adam might have everything in line, but if he don't have Eve to follow him, how will the house stand up? I'm just saying. If Eve is out there shaking her behind every Friday and Adam is going to work 7 days a week, how do the house function? So Eve got to get in order too. Now you got the women all clapping like, oh, that's right. Adam, where art thou? No, Eve, where art thou too? That's it. That's my take.
That's a whole nother.
That's a whole nother.
Now, black man. Did Pastor Evans? Is there a woman where art thou video or something similar? Okay.
Yes.
He has a Kingdom Woman.
He has a Kingdom Woman.
I actually have that book.
He did a sermon, and one of the things that he said, I'll say this because we'll definitely going to get to that video. One of the things that he said in that sermon, because I was there for this one, the one we just watched, I was sitting right there on the front row. If they would have panned the camera, you would have saw me. And I also was there for the woman one too, because he did a series. So I was there for the entire series. He did one. And one of the things that he said in the sermon about the women is, he said, one of the things that I understand is that I hear a lot of women in counseling say, my husband, and he said, when I counsel married couples, I hear a lot of the wives saying, my husband ain't this, my husband ain't that, my husband ain't this. And then the husbands are saying, well, I hear her on the phone with her friend saying, my husband ain't this, he can't do this, my husband's sorry. And he said, one thing I want to say to the women, because I don't want to ruin the rest of it for y'all, I'll just give you this one little bite. He said, if your husband's sorry, so are you. He said, because God created that woman, he created you to be a helpmate to your husband. And if your husband is falling, it is for you to come up behind him and help lift him back up. It's not for you to put your foot on his throat and tell him he ain't nothing. So if he ain't nothing, you ain't nothing, because both of you have become one under him. So we'll definitely gonna get into that video. But thank you. Take heed to the message. You and Real Precious are gonna make me broke now. I gotta hire 3 more security guards. Because they're coming for you too. So you and Real Precious right now gonna break me with the security. So I appreciate it. James, what are your thoughts on this tonight, man?
Hey, how you doing? So it's kind of going to my my points earlier. So I like what Take Heed said. Like I always tell, like I even talk to my son, kind of trying to get him together before his time. But I tell him, like, in order for our community to change, short term, the women will have to change. Long term, the men will have to change. So, because the men, it's going to take a while for us men to kind of get everything back in order, to set the foundation. But since the women are in control right now, and they have the you know what I mean, they have the kids for the most part, but the single moms and things that's going on, we're going to have to kind of help those kids get in line, and then long term, you develop your own family, create your own legacy. And I also teach my son, like, I tell him the weaknesses of our family. So a lot of times we don't look at the weaknesses of our family. Like my granddad, he was a drunk, right? You know, so you got to tell your son, I don't drink because of that. It's because I know, you know what I mean, that's something that, you know what I mean, that was a weakness on our side. Hey, say if, you know what I mean, you had, it's different other elements that you have to be aware of. And in order to fix the last generation, you got to be better than that. And you have to learn from that generation. So it's going to be weaknesses that I have that my son is going to pick up on. He's going to see, and I'm going to tell him, hey, don't do that. You know what I mean? You can be better than me. And then it's kind of like how structures was built back in the ancient time. You know, a lot of those structures are still standing to this day because the father passed that down to the next generation. We just kind of got to do it culturally and kind of get ourselves together in order to, you know what I mean, make our communities better. So we both have to take accountability. We both have to fight. We both have to know what's important. You know, instead of complaining about what each other is doing, we kind of gotta fight with each other instead of fighting against each other. And then we'll see a lot more difference in our communities, and we can be better as a people, as a nation. And then we can actually build those cities again, build Black Wall Street. And we you know, because we can still do it now. We got money, you know, so it's not like it's an issue. So we have all the advantages and all these different things, but we just got to kind of come together instead of fighting so much. So
absolutely, man. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you so much for being here tonight. I know Lady Di's taking care of the kiddos and trying to get some rest, so thank her as well, man. I appreciate both of you so much for being here tonight, man. Your perspective is amazing, like just like everybody else on the panel. So I want to bring up, last but not least at all, the Wife School podcast. Thank you so much for being here tonight. What are your final thoughts?
I really like this topic, and I know that we're just trying to bring everything underneath the kingdom man, but the kingdom man is separate from a worldly man. You cannot put those stipulations on a kingdom man. If we're going to be kingdom, we got to do what God says, and we got to do his will, not our will. And, you know, that takes sacrifice, that takes dedication, that takes consistency, and it takes living it, walking in it so that people can see it. We're living testimonies being read every day. So no matter what you say, as we see people getting exposed left and right on YouTube because they're not being who they say they are. And that's the problem. And we have to stick to that and don't defer from it and pass it down so that somebody can see, like, oh, Black man filtered, he's actually living that. I want to be like them. So nobody can aspire to be like you if they can't see it in you, in your walk, the way you talk, the way you interact with people. And that's where we need to start at. And get our feelings, get our egos out the way. A little bit of pushback to Mr. Bennett, not no shot to you, my love, but like, you know, like you were saying, like calling things into existence. I believe in that. Then what's the point of prayer? What's the point of actually talking to God in communication in spirit? You're doing those so that you can see something manifest physically in your life. You know, so we cannot dismiss that, the power of our words. He said, let there be light, and boom, there it was. Well, I need some light in my life. I need some guidance in my life. I'm going to speak, and I'm going to speak to people. I'm going to speak it so that things will start showing up in the direction where I want to go. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that's the dominion. That's the dominion that the kingdom man has. And he's not doing those things. Our men are not exercising that dominion that was implanted in you. We've lost it. We fell away from it. And so because of that, that's where we are now. The Google tree messed up everything. You know, it's good to have worldly knowledge. It's good to have education. It's good to strive for those things. I would look at Paul in the Bible. Like, so if we're going to keep it kingdom, let's go back to the word. Like Paul in the Bible, he was like the top guy in the Pharisees. He knew how to speak 7 languages. And, you know, he saw this rise of Christians. He was like, what are they doing? He was killing the Christians. But Christ had came and set a new movement that was going on. He was like, no, I'm shutting this down. But all in that he thought he was doing because he read the Bible, but he did not have what Tony Evans said, the revelation. He had knowledge of Christ. He had the knowledge of the Bible, the scriptures and everything. But he didn't have the revelation until he met him on Damascus. He's like, who are you, Lord? He's like, you're the one that you're trying to persecute. You can't persecute me. You, all the stuff that you're doing, I'm the man that you're trying to do it to. So it does come to a point in our lives where we do have to ask God for that revelation when we don't know. We seek mentorship when we don't know something. We have to start seeking for those things. And don't forget that we are spiritual beings experiencing this life. We can't let that part of ourselves die and not nurture it. That's why we don't have the guidance and the insight to operate on a high level of dominion as we should. So I say, if you be in that kingdom, man, get in your word and really talk to God. Don't forget your spiritual aspects. Don't forget your spiritual dominion. You have power to rule, and your eve will come, your garden will come, and all those things he will give to you because he gave it to him. He's going to give it to you. And Jesus, he even made us better. Like the last Adam, we don't really have to suffer like that no more. All we got to say is like, hey, Jesus, I need this. I need you to help me, Jesus. And he will help you. So I just say, let's rely on the second Adam.
All right. Thank you so much. The Wife School Podcast for being here tonight, Suge. I appreciate it. Hey guys, if you wanted I had to go over and grab it real quick. If you wanted a good read, especially for the fellas, if you wanted a good read, Tony Evans has this book called, I've had it for a while, so you can see the wear and tear. I read it a lot. Tony Evans, No More Excuses. This is the 10th anniversary edition. But if you want a good read, guys, read this book. It is amazing. I also he has a Kingdom Man Study Bible as well, which is also amazing. If you're just starting out, fellas, and you need some direction, those things would really work out for you if you want to do that. That book right there is amazing. So, all right, guys. So I'm going to say this, and I'm done for tonight. Thank you guys for being on the battlefield with me. I know it ain't easy sometimes trying to do the right thing when the wrong thing seems so sexy, right? It's so sexy. Right now, exposing people is sexy. Screaming and hollering and calling people out their name is sexy. All the positive content creators is we just out here just doing great shows, and but the reciprocation is mostly on the shows that are not building, but they're tearing down. And so it is what it is. But I do want to reach out. I do want to do a show next week on soul ties because a lot of people deal with those things knowingly and unknowingly. That's a big thing. I don't think we talk about it enough. And I think a lot of women don't even know what that is, or I think they have their own definition of it. But next week we're going to jump right into it, and we're going to get to it next week. So if you could be here next week, that'd be great. But that's all I have for tonight, because take heed to the message. The security, I got to pay for it. Real precious, I got to pay for your security. I just want to give it up for the women on the panel, because it's so hard to lady die and take heed to the message, and Nidra and the Wife School Podcast, Sheree, the Real Precious. It is so hard. I remember having these conversations in the back, and Black David can admit to this. It is so hard to get women to come on shows. And then I figured it out why. Because they don't have a voice, or they feel like they're going to get cussed out, called a name, or something crazy. But I want to show my appreciation to you guys. Lady died for it. I know she's with the babies, but hats off to her for introducing us to James, her husband James, as well. Thank you, brother. But Lady died for coming on, dropping her gems and standing in her square. She ain't moving, right? The Real Precious, she ain't moving. And Real Precious got them glasses on. She ex-athlete. So she got a lot of. She's very animated. So when right there it is. So when she move a little bit and lean back on that couch, get ready, it's coming. Sheree B, she'll be like, And when she, if you give it, she wants that moment right there. She wants that moment. It's ready. It's coming, right? The White School podcast, when she puts out, I've learned all your body languages by now. She puts those hands together. Mr. Bennett, nope, no harm. No, I got a little pushback, okay? Those hands together because she want to be gracious and humble. Take heed to the message. When them glasses come off, she about to go off. It's just an amazing thing. And Lady Di, with both eyebrows will go up and she'll lean back like this in shock. And then when she lean back, when she brings forward, you better be ready for it. Nidra, she's very reserved. However, when that microphone muted, I've read some lips. I've heard, I've heard a few things. I ain't gonna say what it is. I heard a few things, but
she's from the east side of Detroit. That's all I can say.
Yeah, leave me alone. But you know what? I'll say this too, JT. You guys are, what part of Michigan are you guys in?
We're in
the outskirts of Detroit.
Yeah.
So how far are you from Flint? How far are y'all from Flint?
Oh, we far. We're very far.
Oh, okay.
About an hour and a half. Yeah, about an hour.
Because y'all boy, Michigan boy, he went viral, and man, Eric Mays.
Yeah.
That boy there.
Yeah.
Oh my God, y'all! If y'all ain't seen Eric Mays, just YouTube him. He ain't putting up with nobody.
Eric Mays. You just used to him.
He is a councilman for Flint, Michigan. He ain't putting up with nothing. He ain't anybody gonna be stealing money from black folks. They ain't finna be robbing black. They ain't finna. You gonna fix this water? This man, he stands up for his people. He is amazing. But anyway, thank you guys for being here, Mr. Bennett. 27 for his marriage. Thank you so much, man, for what you bring to the channel. I appreciate you so much. That's 27. James, how many years is it for you?
You said married?
Yeah.
6.5.
6.5. All right, man. So absolutely. It didn't take heed to the marriage. How long have you been married?
I got 15 years running.
15 years and running, right? And so hey, listen, they can't say there's no longevity or people not getting married no more. We got 6 years, we got 15 years, we got 14 years, we got Mr. Bennett on year 20 going into year 27. I mean, it is possible to have longevity in marriage, and so we'll continue this fight.
I just wanted to share one thing that I didn't share earlier. When Pastor Evans, he was talking about the idea of just a woman, following you and having faith in you. One thing I said at my 19th anniversary, I was kind of saluting my wife. And one thing that came to my mind that I just had to share with everybody, and I share it as often as I can, this may help some people. One of the things I thanked her for was for her trust in me to make the right decisions. But then the next thing I thanked her for was her forgiveness of me when I made the wrong decision. Yes. And so that combination, that really is something that I don't take for granted, because I have gotten it wrong sometimes. I haven't always made the right decision, but she never took the ball away from me. She's like, look, we'll get past this. We'll get through this. God is good. He'll get us through this. Here, take the ball. You got the shot again. So again, if you want to, be in for the longevity, ladies, we're not always going to get it right, but your trust in us makes us still want to do better. I became better because of some of those mistakes that I had made, but she trusted me to make them. And so for us, that's so I just want to share that. Certainly with the panel, anyone who might be listening to that, but that's big when you can still trust your man even through the mistake and be like, here, you got it. Where we going from here?
We were just talking about this yesterday, Black Men Unfiltered, weren't we? Nobody wants to see it.
Yeah, we was. You know what? And if you haven't watched that, please go over to the Real Precious and watch the show from last night. It was the fellas. She had a show for the fellas. It was amazing. So guys, I appreciate you. Next week. Now listen, guys, I understand that some people don't want to talk about the uncomfortable things. But since I've been on YouTube, since I had 10 subscribers, I've always said that I'm going to have the conversations nobody else wants to have. And we have to talk about, there's one thing to love and accept someone in their private life, but then it becomes a problem when their private life pours over into my child's life. And so on Friday, I may make it on a Tuesday. I may do salon and barbershop talk because I did that 3 weeks ago. It was amazing. Invite the women up, but we have to have the conversation. There are so many laws being changed. There's so many things happening that we're not paying attention to, and I want to bring light to that. Pull up some stuff because I don't want people to say, "Oh, we just making up stuff." Oh, it's just no. I want to actually pull up the laws. I want to pull up things that were just passed. It's to show people where we are in the world today. Because I watched the Ugandan president today. Oh my God. I watched the I think what you call him, president of the Bahamas, and he just said, no, you're not bringing that over here. No, none of that crap coming over here. You could, America, take all your funding. The Ugandan president said, in our country, we're not putting up with it at all. We're going to have laws they're what they just passed. Woo, Lord have mercy. I will be scared to go over there. But it was, it's just so much going on, and a lot of people are standing up, and a lot of people are losing because of it. And Don Lemon, for years, I don't know what y'all saw. I don't know if y'all saw what got him fired. CNN fired him after 17 years yesterday. But he had a conversation with a guy that was not black. And the guy persistently wanted to tell him about black problems and what black people should do and and Don Lemon, I guess for years he's been, in the gray areas. I guess he wasn't feeling it. And he just went ham and they fired him. When he stood up for those black people, they fired him really quickly. But yeah, we got a lot going on. So thank you guys for being here. We're going to continue to have the conversations. Tomorrow, we got the sports show, 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, with one-on-one sports show with Dante and Shawnee. And then right after that, Unapologetic with Mandrell and Shushu. Shushu will be on. I don't know what they're talking about tomorrow. Then on Thursday, we have Dr. Nkumbe and Coach K. Guys, y'all really need to get into this show. All right. Yeah, because if what they're talking about, you have a doctor that does this for a living, that sits down and counsels people for a living. Then you have a life coach in Coach K, and they're helping people for free, right? Any issues you're having, they're asking, hey, people in the chat, send me a question. What do you have? We're here to help you. So if you're having any issues with children, marriage, relationships, wanting to get married, wanting to be with someone, please come over on Thursday at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. And Coach K and I'm going to put up that thing here. But Coach K and Dr. Nkumbe are really helping people and answering a lot of questions, and they're doing it for free. So this is Thursday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Breaking the Cycle is the name of their show here on Black Men Unfiltered Network. So set your phone up to be ready, or your computer, whatever you're using, whatever device you're using, so we can support Dr. Nkumbe and Coach K, and then also support the Unapologetic with Mandrell and Shushu. Which is on tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then let's see here, what else we got. I think Dante and I don't have theirs up here. So Dante and Shawnee will be on tomorrow for sports. So guys, thank you so much for being here. We out of here. Anybody need any help? Dr. Nkumbe, he's right there. She said, if we don't do it, who will? See? If we don't do it, who will, family? Be a Black Men Unfiltered Network, man. Thank you so much. All right, we'll see y'all next week if you can make it. And we out. Y'all have a good night.